Hello, it's me, Andy from Blitz Gaming. Hope we're having a great weekend. Today we are testing Intel's i3 12100. 4 cores, only got performance cores, that means it's good. It won't have none of the problems with games where they rather not work or they got really bad ones at low. So it'll just be like the 12400, but it's obviously slower. It has a maximum clock speed of 4.3 turbo and a maximum wattage, if I remember rightly, 89 watts. So yeah, good budget CPU. Yeah, I can't complain really. I found it a great CPU. There's nothing on the market from AMD which compares to this. Basically, after a budget processor, this is where it is really. AMD don't have nothing available at all. I mean, I know they have just released some CPUs, but they've cut the CPUs down to PCI Express 3 only, and which I think is daft, and the Radeon Zen 2, which is daft as well. We've got Zen 3, been around for how long? And Zen 4 is about to be released. So why release an old design CPU now? Don't make sense to me, and plus the price on them is stupid. So again, at the end of the day, I would say Intel have got it spot on. All I could say. We won't be using the cooler. We'll be using our Ferro 5 CPU cooler just to keep the consistency throughout all our benchmarking, which we've already tested on the 12400, 12600. We've got obviously 16 gigs of DDR, 36 megahertz, the normal stuff, and we'll be using the Asus motherboard H610MAD4. Again, for the testing, also comes with, as before, the Annie Lee fans times 4, the AL120s, to keep it all nice and cool in the system. And yeah, we go through our normal benchmarking suite, as always, see how it comes out. Yeah, fantastic. Okay, I'll see you at the end of the benchmarking. Let's see what you think. Okay, test system, as normal, we've got the Asus H610M-A D4 motherboard, the Intel 12100, 16 gigs of DDR, 36 megahertz, CL16 DDR4 memory, Western Digital 550 M2 boot drive, Western Digital 3 TB game drive, 500 watt PSU from Cooler Master, Corsair 4000D airflow case. We've got the Ferro 5 CPU cooler with Arctic MX5 thermal paste as well. Intel RGB, I'm not going to test the RGB, we've done a 770 and that was slow enough, so we're not going to do none of the others, except when we do things like Cinebench and Farcry. Obviously Nvidia 1030, 1650, we've got AMD's RX550, RX6500 XT and RX6600. So yeah, we've got all the good stuff. The latest Windows build, AMD's 2231 and Nvidia's 501179, which is a little out of date. But to be consistent with the benchmarking, we're going to be using that for the next month or two. Then we'll update. But we keep off new games. We've got 3D Mark Timespy, so overall score 714. And CPU score 6097. Obviously the graphics score is extremely low. She run fine. She's literally maxed out the clock speed constantly all the way through, just under 4.3. That's running around 55 top 60C at a worst case scenario with the Ferro 5 cooler. And she's running around between 4 and 4.3 turbo constantly back and forwards. And with the full charts, you see again, as I said, she's running at full throttle around 50 odd C, 55C, No problems at all. No major thermal throttling on this CPU with the Ferro 5 cooler. We switch over to PCmark 2010. You can see it has no problem running the video calls at all. Good picture, no worries at all. Yeah, again, can't complain really. Never struggled really at all. Get a good score of 4,582. Again, as I said, this one fine, no problems at all. Doing a benchmark, I mean this benchmark takes about half an hour, so it's a bit of a pain. Again, you can see the processor again is running at maximum speed, and again great temperature, no problem. So I would take a quick look at the score. You see we got down to 8,000 odd with the i3. Okay, it's a bit of a drop, but we are going from 6 cores to 4 cores, and on the 12600 we've got 6 cores plus 4 E-cores. So there's a big difference at the end of the day, and the top one runs at 4.9, I think 4.6, then we've got 4.3. So there's a big difference, plus the cache is also different as well. If you look at the main scores, Timespy, there's not a lot of difference in it. CPU market score, again, there's not a lot of difference in it. At the end of the day, you see the wattage is coming down as well. Only 4 cores, and the temperature is coming down. Mind you, the temperature is a little bit higher for some reason, over the 12400. But I have to say, it is warmer. Air temperature is warmer here today than what I've done the other 2 tests. So that might be the reason why it's slightly higher, but otherwise fine. So yeah, as I said, it works fine on the synthetic test, no problem, runs fine, can't complain. I mean, what is it, £120 CPU? Really, you can't complain really for what you're getting. Assassin's Creed Valhalla. We're in the Cranta Bridge, or whatever it's called, something like that. Modern day Cambridge, I believe. Yeah, so we're on NVIDIA's 1030 720p low presets. The 1030, okay, it's playable. I move back and forward, left and right. It seemed to be okay, even though the frame rates, yeah, we're just in the 30s, maxing out at 38, 1% lows in the 26. So yeah, but I think you'd be okay on 720p low preset. Switch over to AMD's RX550. See, we're still running at 100%. Basically, the old GPUs. Basic GPUs are got to give it everything these days to keep going with modern games. But you can see the frame rate is way higher than NVIDIA's 1030. So, I mean, basically, the cards are similar price, but you've got to remember the RX 550 has got 4 gig, NVIDIA 1030 has only got 2, and this has also got a high clock speed. We stay on the RX 550, 720p, but this time we go up to medium preset. And you can see, yeah, she's still playable at medium on the RX 550. The 1030, it won't be playable, just to let you know. So yeah, it's playable on the AMD RX 550 on 720p medium preset. We switch back to NVIDIA's 1030, this time 1080p low preset, and you can see she's still too low a frame rate. I mean, she looks alright, but we're just running around. I mean, if you're fighting, you'd probably see it big time. I wouldn't bother. I just play this on 720p low presets instead, if you had the NVIDIA 1030 card. So we switch back to the AMD RX 550, still at 1080p low presets. Again, we're still on the playability maybe. I mean, again, you may be better off going back to 720p medium on this card. See how you get on. I mean, you could always try 1080p low, but we are on the bare minimums, 30 frames a second. Switch over to NVIDIA's 1650, this time 1080p high settings, high presets. So yeah, we're doing well. We're seeing the 40s. You can go low if you want to go low, but obviously you don't get the grass and all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, you could try medium, but she does look way better with the grass and so in the framework. And she seems to play fine on this preset. Switch over to AMD's RX6500 XT. Frame rate's a little bit slower than NVIDIA 1650. It's a funny card. Some games it comes out way quicker. In another game, it just comes out no faster than the 1650. It's bizarre. But I have to say, it don't warrant the nearly £300 price tag on it. As a dessert, it's way overpriced, this card. We switch over to AMD's RX6600. 1080p Ultra preset. You can see we have no problem running these settings with the 12100 CPU. Has no problem. I've wrote the thing down there. It says i5 12100 is actually an i3 12100. Yeah, my mistake. Bad for me. So yeah, has no problem at all. I still think it's probably the bargain card I bought last year. Anyway, I think it cost me a little under £400, and I think now it gets around £350. And you could also pick up an RX 3050 for a similar price, about £350 now. Okay, got the chart up. Now if we look at the 720p chart, basically we're all GPU bound. There's hardly anything in it, regardless what CPU you have. They're literally a couple of frames one way or the other, and that just goes down to where I know I might be facing slightly left or slightly right at the end of the day. But basically, you can say they're literally all identical, except for a few places where the AMD built-in Vega 7 is a couple of frames faster than the budget cards. So yeah, I mean, if you're going to play on budget settings, you're probably better off still with the 5600G because it's got a good graphic card built in and it's got a fairly good frame rate. Got to remember the prices. I've got the 2100, what starts £125, and 2400 is about 180, and then it goes up a good £100 for the 12600K. And I think the 5600G is £200. So yeah, you can play around. I mean, if it was me, I'll probably going by the chart, I'll probably buy the 2100 and probably get a 1650. At least I can get 1080p good gameplay then, no problem. Because as soon as you go up to 8 gig of memory, and you can start after paying more money. I mean, cards are coming down. The 1650 cheapest price at the moment is £185. And I think the normal MSRP is around 150. So give it another month, we may get down to the normal prices. Yeah, so if you go to the 1080p chart, the 2100 is the leader. I mean, again, they're literally all identical regardless, but they are a good 10 frames ahead at 1080p over the 5600G. So there is a difference. Now we look at the Ultra setup. Again, it's like nothing's pulling away regardless what CPU you have. It's literally a few frames here and there. I mean, you're never going to notice it on the screen because it's not big enough. But yeah, again, depends what your budget is, depends what you want to do. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, by going by the chart, I know the 12600K still has those 1% lows on certain games and doesn't run. So I will probably, to me, it's going to be a 2100 or a 2400. It's as simple as that, really. And yes, there's a £50 difference between the two. But okay, if you want to do a bit of number crunching in the future and want to buy a high-end graphic card in your future, yes, the more core count, the faster processor will certainly stand out. Battlefield 5. Unfortunately, I didn't record in entire walkthrough here. Just done the ending. Speed things up because it takes quite a long time with the video sequences in the beginning. So yeah, we're on the RX1030. Again, it's an i3. I'll put i5 up there. It's a mistake by me. Got 720p, low presets. Don't forget we don't use HDRR and we ain't got DirectX 12 on. And also we don't use VSync. So yeah, I mean, we got a good 40 frames. It looks alright. I mean, you can play this no problem. You could probably even play this on competitive mode, but ideally you'd want it at high as possible. If you want to do competitive stuff, these days you want at least 60 frames a second. But obviously the 1030 is not fast enough. Switch over to AMD's RX550. Again, I've got the naming wrong there. It says 12400. Ignore that. It's a 12100. i3 12100. So yeah, doing fine. Yeah, it's a lot faster than the NVIDIA 1030. But don't forget, we've got 4 gig of memory, not 2. And we've got a lot of higher clock speed as well. So yeah, it plays fine. No problem at 720p low preset. Being we've gone back to the 1030. This time we're on 720p medium preset. This high is a bit too much for this card. If you look at a chart later, we've done it on the other CPUs. 720p high is a bit too much. So yeah, again, at medium settings, we're still getting a good frame rate at the end of the day. And yes, you do get a bit of graphics on textures and so. But yeah, okay. Let's move on. We'll switch over to AMD's RX550. This time 720p high preset. And so we'll be going back and forwards on the video. I like doing them all together at the same time. So it looks like you just carry on from where you left off, but this time we changed a few things. But yeah, again, high settings for the RX550 as no problem. We're still in the 40s. Playing no problem. As I said, you probably, if you want to go low, you can certainly play competitive gameplay. No worries. That's if you don't get no cheats. That's it, because there's always cheats in this game. Drives me nuts. We now move on. We've got to the NC now. This is where it will be from now onwards. So we're now on RXR 550 still, but this time 1080p low preset. And you can see straight away it's a lot more clearer. Yeah, we're still in the i30s. One was has gone below the 30 barrier. I mean, certainly you could play the campaign, and if you want to risk playing multiplayer, you could try, let's say, but you're probably better off going back to 720p. But yeah, the RX550 is a great budget card. It does well. I mean, this game's not that old, and I'm not going to test the new one again because it's crap. End of story. Back on the RX550, but this time 1080p medium presets. So yeah, it's still playable. It's like I said, it's a great budget card. I really wish AMD will replace it though with something new, which ain't got a stupid price on it, like the 6400 has just been released, but they want £200 for it, which I think is stupid. And that's the reason why I've not tested it. So now we switch cards to NVIDIA 1650, 1080p medium still. You can see the frame rate's gone right up. I mean, ideally, as I said earlier, I'd probably buy a 2100 with a 1650, and you can probably build up a PC for around £500. So yeah, we're doing well at the end of the day. Now the problem is the RX6500 XT is I think it's a good card, but it's like freaking £100 more than this, and it's like, sorry, it ain't worth that extra money. Especially when most of the benchmarks come out no faster than this one. We switch over to AMD's RX6500 XT, but this time 1080p high preset. Yeah, it runs fine, and you've got no wrong with that. It's just the price of this card is stupid. It just ain't worth the extra £100 over 6500. Sorry, over the 1650 XT. We finish off now with AMD's RX6600 1080p Ultra presets. See, it has no problem. Problem with this card is about £400. I think it's still too pricey. It hasn't really changed since the prices of cards have come down. At least it's just still roughly £400. And there's a big difference between this and the 6500 XT. I mean, this flies. But the price on cards is just basically, they just don't seem to match up. At the end of the day, they're just all over the place. Bit of luck when the next batch come out, prices just sort of go back to where they should be. But yeah, if you want an RX6600, or now they got their 3050s now come down in price, you should be fine running this game or any game at 1080p. Okay, let's look at a chart. We start at the bottom left. We've got the 1030 RX550 from AMD. Considering both cards are more or less the same price, it's basically showing you the RX550 is a way better card, way better frame rate. It's a bit pointless buying a 1030 these days. You just don't have it. It's not got enough memory. Not got enough clock speed, and obviously AMD's built-in IGP now, especially when we get the RDNA 2 version, comes out in Zen 4, will beat both of those cards with a built-in GPU. So it's a bit time they sort of like were replaced. And it's the same up till we get to 1080p low. It's only when we get to the big cards, and you see the RX6600 pull ahead. Shows you more cores. Okay, it is a slightly higher clock speed, 300 megahertz higher, 2600K, and that's pull ahead. But I have always noticed that more cores on Battlefield always comes out better. When you look at 1080p low, scaling wise, now you're talking about the bottom end cards, the RX550, Nvidia's 1030, what £85, £100. And then you go up to the RX6600, £400. Well, I ain't getting 4 times the speed, but it's 4 times the amount of money. Yeah, scaling's not brilliant, I have to say. Again, you see Nvidia 1650. I still think it's probably at this moment in time, but the prices come down, probably the best value card worth getting. I mean, on Battlefield 5, we're still getting a very good play rate at ultra presets. Yeah, £185 card versus £400 card. Okay, there's 30 frames in it, but I mean, it's a big difference, £200 difference in price tag. Okay, let's move on to the next game. Far Cry 6. We are on Nvidia's 1030. 720p low preset. Looks okay, runs. I mean, okay, we're in the 30s. 1% lows, also in the 30s. I mean, it's playable. Okay, if you had to, I think you'd be okay. I'm not known it to be any lagging or anything like that. I seem to be fine. We switch over to AMD's RX 550. Again, 720p low presets. Again, ignore the i5 12400. It is the i3 2100. That's just forgot to change it. It's one of those things. Yeah, you can see it's a lot higher frame rate than the 1030, as again, really the 1030 is coming to its end of life, really. Okay, we're still with the AMD RX550, 720p Ultra preset. Yeah, again, it still runs alright. We're on the 30s, the 1% lows now under the 30s. It has rained. I have no control of the weather. Time of day, no nothing. It's a pain to make it 100% equal. I cannot do that every run. So you have to just take it, base it as it is. I think the rain I would have thought it would have changed the frame rate slightly. Because you've got loads and loads of reflections everywhere. And obviously the shadows and all that are different. But it's nothing I can do about it. I did actually load it up 4 times and it rained 4 times, so I just gave up in the end. So now on 1080p, still with the RX550, but 1080p low presets. You can see it's a lot sharper picture, as you expect from 1080p. And yeah, we're on the bare minimums, 30, 27 at the end of the day. Again, we ain't got anything special turned on, it's just standard preset. So now I've done a change, we've now turned super resolution on. Not the shadow in, just the Fidelity FX super resolution. So we're on the RX550, 1080p, low presets with Fidelity super resolution on, balance mode. And you can see, well, we're in the 50s, we've gained 20 frames a second, picture looks fine, can't complain really. Yeah, it's a good free frame rate boost at the end of the day. Make use of it while we can. We turn it up to ultra presets. Yes, it's clearer, but we lost 10 frames a second. Balance will be fine, or just stick it on quality. You might be getting a wee in between, around 45 frames. Yeah, can't complain. 3 frames is great. Now on the NVIDIA 1650, 1080p, medium preset. It's getting slightly dark now, I've got to reset it. Well in the 70s, no problem. Again, I said this card's great, now the price is coming down to normal. It's a bargain at the end of the day. Easy play at 1080p, no problem.
Moving.
We now switch over to AMD's RX6600 XT on 1080p high preset. No problem. I mean, obviously this is an AMD sponsored game, so it all comes out great on the AMD side. And yeah, we're in the 70s, no problem on the 1% low. I mean, it runs fine at the end of the day. No complaints here. We're now on the AMD's RX6600, this time 1080p Ultra preset. Now, as I said before, you can easily take this to 1440p with this card. I don't think you're going to have no problem at all running on 1440p. Probably not at Ultra, but you certainly probably get up to medium. And you can see it's rained again, so we've got loads and loads of reflections on the screen, so but it's not really making any difference to the card. It has no problem at all. Unfortunately, it's going to be dark. Again, this is the problem with the game. You can't like set it, look, run at daytime at this time of day, no rain, no nothing. It just tough. It's like And the worst of it, it's a save. You can load it 50 times. It might disappear from the rain, and it might not. Okay, now we've got the chart up. Start bottom left. You can see the RX550 flattens the NVIDIA 1030. Don't forget, it's got 4 gig, not 2, and it's a lot of high clock speed. So yeah, processor wise, if you look at all the 4 CPUs, there's not really anything in it. 1 or 2 frames here and there, which you're probably never going to notice at all. We go up to 720p Ultra. I never included the NVIDIA 1030 because it's just ain't playable. If you look at the other 2 processors, it just ain't got nothing in it. But go to the RX550. Again, it does well. On Ultra, it's playable. We're in the 30s. Okay, yeah, in the modern age, we like 60 frames. But I know when we're on budget gaming, you've got to start somewhere at the end of the day. Never did try what it'd be like putting Fidelity FX on at 720p. I don't know if it'll make much of a difference or not. It may do. But we go over to 1080p, low preset, yeah, RX550. On balance mode, we're gaining 20 frames, Ultra around 10. So it definitely makes a good sense to have the RX550 with Fidelity FX on. Probably balance, get a sharper picture, and get a good frame rate. Then go to up to the NVIDIA 1650, and yeah, we just start walking away with things, no problem at all. You can see there where if you got the 12600K or anything above, you get a nasty 1% low. It doesn't affect the 12400 or the 12100. It is just a 12600K thing out or above. You can see that the Alderlake CPUs pull away from their AMD 5600G by quite a margin. And on the 2100 or 1080p low, we're doing 145 frames a second. So you've got plenty to play with the settings. So then on medium high, again, if you look at 1650, starting off at 70 frames and drop down about 10 frames on the high to 60 odd. So again, we're having no problem with the 1650 playing Farcry. And obviously the AMD 6500 XT above that. And then obviously the RX6600 really just walks away with everything. We go over to Ultra. You can see it's about 5, worst case scenario, 10 frames difference between the 2100 and the 2600K. Again, £120 processor versus £275 processor. Is it worth spending that extra money for an extra 5 frames? Again, it may be different if you put 3080 or large card in there. Maybe quite big margin. Where we only go up to the RX6600. There's not a massive difference in it, and it's like, okay, I can play Ultra, no problem. At the end of the day, even on a 1650, we have no problem. Again, you can put Fidelity FX on balance and give yourself even more of a boost. And if you wanted to, you can turn on the other features of Fidelity FX, the shadowing and the sharpening features. I don't know how much of a drop you would have, but to me, it looks fine as it is. I'm not going to really worry about getting the graphics beautiful. It looks fine. I'm not going to complain. But yeah, again, the 2100 CPU from Intel does great. It's not that far behind in most scenarios from the 2600K, but okay, £150 difference in price. You have to say to yourself, those extra 5 to 10 frames a second, is it worth spending that extra money? Total War Troy. We're on the NVIDIA 1030, 720p low preset. Plays fine and we're well in the 80s. I mean, don't forget, you can always change the army size, leave everything else the same, boost the army up to large. I don't think you're going to get a massive frame drop. I usually find it drops when you change all the effects. But yeah, plays great, can't complain at all. Switch over to AMD's RX 550. Again, I'll remind you, ignore the CPU now, I wrote it down wrong. Should have changed it to the i3 12100, but I didn't. Yeah, it's not an automatic thing, it's something you got to write down in the settings, and I just forgot. So yeah, but get back to the RX 550. It basically flies really. I mean, you have no problem putting the army up on this one and a few other settings. It basically destroys the Nvidia 1030, but at the end of the day, well, not really comparable cards, but they are comparable in price. Yeah, so we go back to the Nvidia 1030, this time 720p medium preset. So we drop down, what, to 25 frames. But you get high textures, bigger army, and a few other special effects bunged in. So at the end of the day, it's still playable, can't complain at all. Looks great, no worries at all. We now switch over to AMD's RX 550 again, but this time 720p high. So not on the medium, we've gone to high. We've got bigger army, and yeah, we're still in the 30s. You can play like this, it's not going to be a problem. It doesn't really lag. You got to remember, it's a fighting game, but it's not a first person like shoot 'em up. So yeah, you're not going to have to worry about, okay, is it going to lag when I'm trying to shoot someone? It's basically just grabbing your troops, go over there, destroy the enemy. We go back to Nvidia's 1030, this time 1080p low preset. Again, we're in the 50s, you could probably have no problem giving yourself a bigger army. No problem, as long as you don't touch the other settings, you should be fine. But you do get a way clearer screen, I have to say, from 720p. Switch over to AMD's RX 550, still 1080p low preset. So yeah, we're doing well. We've got good frame rate, still in the 50s, no problem. Again, you can, as I said before, give yourself a bigger army to make it worth, well, make it look like it's worth playing then. Instead of having a little farmers going around beating each other up, we want an army of 20,000 men, but having a fight. Makes my life a lot better on the game when you've got a big army. Still with the RX 550, no longer the 1030. 1030 is not powerful enough now. We're now gone up to medium settings at 1080p. So 1080p medium preset. The old grab cards still 100%, like they always are. Again, the budget cards need an update somewhere along the line. I mean, not guaranteed hot at the end of the day, but would be nice for AMD or Nvidia to come out with a new one. So it does make a difference on the, obviously you get grass when you go to medium settings or higher. We now jump on the Nvidia 1650, 1080p, medium preset, and we've gone straight up to 100 frames. No problem at all for this card. Again, I keep saying that 1650 is a great card, especially now the price has come down. If it gets to, like I said, the MRSP of 150, it'll be a bargain. We switch over to AMD's RX6600 XT, this time 1080p high preset. So yeah, it's running fine, no problem at all. I mean, it looks great, can't complain, the graphics look great. The army's now getting decent size, can't complain, and textures are up. Again, I love this game, I'm now playing it Stopped playing Rome, now playing this. It's been sitting around for years. Well, so now about 18 months, I think. I thought, okay, let's give it a go. And it's certainly got a better graphics over Rome. We now switch over to AMD's RX6600. This time 1080p Ultra preset. So now we're on maxed out. I mean, there is a few other settings you can play around with. You can add to make it even more entertainment, better looking, and you can give yourself an extreme size army, which is gigantic. So what we've got here makes this army even look small when you put the extreme version on. But yeah, fantastic. Again, the RX6600 is a fantastic card, but I think it's a bit pricey. It's still at £400. Okay, let's look at the charts. Okay, we've got the charts up. We start bottom left, as we like to do. You can see the AMD RX 550 leads the NVIDIA 1030 by a good 10 frames. And it's all GPU bound regardless what CPU you put in with it. It's not, the graphic cards are not getting any faster. Basically GPU caps there and we can't do nothing about it really. Again, 720p high is the same, unless you've got Vega 7 where it pulls away and wins the chart for the budgets. Yeah, otherwise, regardless what CPU you're going to have, if you're going to buy a budget card, you're not going to gain anything at all. Again, we go for 1080p low, and the budget card, same again, they're in the cap, not getting any speed, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's playable, and as I said earlier, you can always put bigger armies on there. I don't think the bigger armies really massively drop the frame rate. It's basically all the textures and all the effects what drop the frame rate. Now, if you look at the RX 6600, leads the pack. That is obviously not in its cap because it's still going up slowly. But I know, but you're gaining, so you could always say, okay, the RX 6600 is good. But it's an expensive card, as I said earlier. So the best card to buy at the moment, budget wise, £185, 1650. Yeah, I think you get great frame rate for 1080p. A bit like it come down to the £150 mark, as I said earlier on. Again, we have similar results at 1080p medium. Again, graphic card bound. Basically, as I said earlier, really what you're talking about, £120 processor for 12100 i3, £170 for the i5 12400, and 280 for the 12600. I mean, you have to say to yourself, man, it depends what card you want to put with it. Is it worth spending that extra £100 on a 12600K when I'm getting the same sort of results for the 12100? Again, you see the RX, not the RX, the NVIDIA 1650. It's capable of playing at Ultra preset. We're doing what, 50 odd frames. No problem them out anywhere on a 1650. Okay, let's move on.
On the first whistle, then we follow.
Battlefield 1. We're at 1080p low preset. We won't do 720p because the game plays well from 1080p onwards. Yeah, so we've got 50 odd frames average, 40 in 40s, high 40s on the 1% low. I mean, it looks great. At the end of the day, it sounds great. I mean, it's a great game to play. Okay, multiplayer can be a bit of a pain because they've got too many cheats on there. but otherwise, when they're not cheating, it is a great game. And yeah, and you can get a good frame rate where we're in the 50s and that, as long as you play at 1080p low. I think you'll be quite competitive with that sort of frame rate in the 50s. We switch over to AMD's RX550, still 1080p low preset, and yeah, you can see we're doing well in the 70s now. With the RX550 is a what better card. Again, I mean, since you can buy both of these cards, you're better off with the RX550 because you get the 4 gig of memory and a high clock speed. And literally they're the same price, so it's a bit pointless buying an NVIDIA 1030.
Those field guns are shredding their outfit! Look where that shot came from, and let them have it! That's one less machine gun! We're a slow-moving target here, driver!
We switch back to NVIDIA's 1030, this time 1080p medium preset. I got myself stuck. Yeah, I mean, it looks great. I mean, we're in the 30s, even on the 1% low, so campaign wise you'll be okay. I mean, you might be able to play multiplayer in the 30s, but I mean, when you're playing multiplayer, you want to really get a high frame rate as possible, really. Lower some settings down, because you don't want no slacking anywhere at all when you're moving around. We switch back to AMD's RX550, the RX550, 1080p medium presets again. Yeah, we've got a better frame rate still. It's in the 40s, high 130s for the 1% low. So yeah, can't complain. Well, it runs fine really. For a budget card, you can't complain really at all. We switch over to NVIDIA 1650. This time 1080p high presets, and you can see we have no problems at all running on a 1650. As I keep saying, bargain card at the moment, £185, and would like it to go down. So yeah, can't complain really. I mean, we're in the 88s, 90s, 1% low, 75. So yeah, it plays fantastic. We switch over to AMD's RX6500 XT. This time 1080p Ultra preset. And you can see we have no problem with the 6500 XT at all. Even on Ultra, we're doing what, 110 and 95 for the 1% low. Yeah, okay, it's an old game, but I mean, it still looks fantastic, even for an old game. You can't complain. In fact, I think it still looks better than the Battlefield 1942, what they just released. Well, I say just released a few months back. So yeah, great game.
One less energy.
We finish off with AMD's RX6600. Again, obviously, we just fly, no problems at 1080p Ultra presets. Again, you can easily take it up to 1440p with this card. No problem. Probably running around medium settings. No problem at all. And yeah, I'll keep in mind myself. It says Intel i5 up there. No, it is an i3. My mistake.
Boys are moving up. Continue suppressing fire. Keep them on their heels.
Okay, I've got the chart up. Start at bottom left. 1080p, low settings. You see RX 550 again, beats to 1030. Not a lot in it, but basically, as I showed earlier, they're both playable no problem. Then we go up to the 1650 and then we start flying. You can see Alderlake's worth an extra 10 frames over AMD's 5600G. And then it's a couple of frames in it for the 3 processors. And then we go up to the RX6600, and then we're really capping, hitting a 200 frame cap, what we got turned on. So, and that's on all the CPU, so there's nothing, again, there's nothing in them. We're all really video card bound, nothing to do with the CPU. Look at 1080p medium. Game, we are playable in the 30s to 40s, but if you're going to play multiplayer, you probably want to go back down to 1080p low to have a very high frame rate. Going on 1650, again it's getting great frame rate over the 100, and 6500 XT is a bit faster, and then obviously RX6600 is hitting the frame rate cap at 200 again, even on medium settings with the 12400. Okay, the 1080p high, you know, I've included the budget cards. They're not really playable. I mean, might be a way just, but I think because it's a shoot 'em up game, you might want to keep away from that and go back down to medium or low, depends if you want to play multiplayer. Look at 1650 on high and ultra, and it's in the 80s, so it has no problem playing on Alderlake, even with a 12100. Again, the 12100, I keep saying, it's a fantastic processor. It's staying literally within, what, 5% margin between 12100 and the 12600K. 6500 XT does well as well on all the settings, faster than 1650, and moving in the 100 barrier on ultra. So the 6500 XT does well. Still too pricey though. I think £280, £300 card. I think it's too dear. So, and I think I have seen at the RX6600, I have seen it as low now as 350, but I still think that's too dear. This game done about 300, and the other one down to 200. And then the 6400, if that was priced right about £100, it'd be bargain. So basically, out of all the charts, regardless what CPU you have, it's all down to GPU power. But money-wise, processors from the bottom, there's a big difference in price. So you have to say to yourself how much you want to spend on a CPU. But you can certainly save a lot of money not buying a 12600K. Red Dead Redemption. Okay, the settings can be a bit awkward on this one. We got it's either on low or turned off. So we have no TAA, MSA or FXAA turned on. Anti-stop refiltering turned off. And triple buffering is turned off. So we're on the NVIDIA 1030, 720p, low preset. So we're on like the bare minimum, really. You can play the game, but I won't go anywhere near multiplayer because this game can be very demanding in certain places.
Again the other day. This curse will be
Keep it moving.
Too many ass wipes in this game.
We switch over to AMD's RX550. Still 720p, low settings or off. Yeah, it's a little bit faster, but well, what can still on the AMD RX550. We now switch up to 1080p. Again, still low settings or off. So there's no things like TXA, MSA or FXAA turned on, or there's no anti-stop filtering. You're supposed to everything, as I said, low or off on the settings. I mean, yeah, we're on the 30s. Again, you'll probably be able to play the campaign mode, but online version, I think it's going to be a no-go. It's now on NVIDIA's 1650, 1080p, low settings again. Again, everything's turned off, nothing's changed. But on the 1650, you see, well, we've got a great frame rate now. We're in the 70s. obviously lower than 50s. And the GPU's going between 95 and 100%, so we're doing alright there. The only thing is they've updated this game. You can only set the settings for how much memory you got. So if you've only got 2 gig of memory, it only might let you change the settings on a few bits. If you've got 4 gig of memory, you can get to high, but you certainly can't get to ultra. So we now switch over to 6500, AMD 6500 XT, and now on 1080p high settings, or on. The only thing what's off is FXAA, TAA and MSAA. Otherwise, yeah, she's running fine, and you'll soon notice when you turn the other 3 on, the frame rate just dies. But otherwise it works fine. We now switch over to AMD's RX6600. This time we're on 1080p high settings with everything turned on. Yeah, so FXAA, TAA and MSAA are now turned on as well. I mean, she looks lovely, can't complain at all really. I mean, we're still in the 50s. I mean, even the RX6600 does get a battering on this, especially when we get up to ultra mode. So now we're on ultra, everything maxed out still, and yeah, we're in the high 30s average frame rate, 1% low is still in the 30s, so it's playable. Again, you might want to turn those 3 off, get an extra 25 frames a second out of it, and play the online version. But yeah, she does look lovely in ultra. I have no complaints there. I mean, it's I think still the best looking game on the market at this moment. I have got Cyberpunk. I should probably do a test on the next round of gravity tests. Now we're up to a decent patch. It seems to be running okay, so it could be worth benchmarking at last.
Morning, partner.
Okay, we've got the chart up. You can see again the AMD's RX550 leads the 1030. And we're getting good frame rates at 720p settings on the RX550. 1030 probably too low to play this game. I'll probably keep away from it. It's only got 2 gig of memory. It's going to struggle in places. But then we'll go up to 1080p low. Again, it's on the bare minimum. You're probably better off playing at 720p. Make life easy for yourself. Then we go up to the 1650 onwards. 1650, hitting in the 70s, and it's AMD's RX6500 XT, getting into the 80s. Then the RX6600 bashing out well over 100 frames at 1080p low. You can see for the first time that the 2600K is what literally 30 frames ahead of the 2100 for the first time. They're usually pretty close, but this time 2100K is definitely pulled ahead. Those cores and extra, what we're talking about, 4.9 gigahertz clock versus 4.3 definitely makes a difference in this game. We go over to 1080p high settings, and you can see there, okay, we're playable in the 50s. Now, I definitely wouldn't put on TAA, FXAA, and MSAA. I mean, I've only ever put them all on 3 on. I mean, I don't know what it's like if I just put 1 on. But you can see the frame rate just dies on a 1650 and a RX 6500 XT. I mean, what's that? It's like 45% frame rate. 45% of your frame rate just die by turning those on. And we go up to the RX6600. Ultra settings, that's fine. Again, now as soon as you turn on those 3 Special abilities, again the RX6600 dies is true as well. Okay, it's still in a playable rate, but to be honest, I'll just turn them off and just play with them without it, because the frame rate is so different. Yeah, it's such a big difference. 25-40 frames is too much to lose. So yeah, definitely play without having those turned on. The graphics don't look crap without it at all. And yeah, you'll be better off, way better experience with a higher frame rate than what you will with a low one. Okay, let's move on. Total War Warhammer 3. On NVIDIA's 1030, 720p low presets. As we use presets on this one, just easier than anything else. We're in the 50s, averaging 1% low in the 30s, so it plays no problem at low presets. We now switch over to AMD's RX 550, still 720p low presets. As I said, I think in our last video, this game is no longer sponsored by AMD, it's now sponsored by Intel, and that is probably the reason why the frame rate is gone lousy on AMD cards. Yeah, so the NVIDIA 1030 with its only 2GB of memory is actually running quicker. We now switch up to 1080p low presets, but this time on NVIDIA 1650. The 1030 and the RX 550 ain't got enough power to run this. They're too low. They're in the 20s. So yeah, looks alright. Runs fine. We're well in the 80s and 1% low in the 50s. So I've got no problem at all on the 1650. Still with the 1650, NVIDIA 1650, this time 1080p medium preset. So yeah, we're still banging out 60 frames a second, 1% lows in the 40s, so yeah, 1650 has no problem still playing. We switch over to AMD's 6500 XT, still 1080p medium presets. And yeah, we're doing slightly better than the 6500 X, the 1650 from NVIDIA. Both playable, no problem. We switch over to AMD's RX6600, this time 1080p higher presets. So now we're like, yeah, getting big armies, nice textures on the ground, grass on the ground, a few other things. And yeah, she's looking lovely. Can't complain. I'm not quite sure why this devil changed his colour. 1 minute he's green, 1 minute he's white, and now he's blue. I can't quite work that out. If it's a different spell and it's not exactly the same every run, I don't know. You thought being a built-in benchmark it'd be exactly the same every time around, but it's not. We now switch over to Ultra preset. So I'm still on the RX6600, 1080p Ultra preset. So big armies, big special effects, and everything you want really. Yes, there's still some more settings to play around with if you want to, but you won't worry about them. We just leave it on the presets. It's easy to benchmark, low, medium, high, ultra. So you've got a nice bit of grass on now, and all the lovely effects on the troops going through, and the old big bear fights the spider thingy there, whatever that is. Yeah, it's a great game, so you should play it. Okay, got the charts up. Start at the bottom left. We can see the NVIDIA 1030 beats the RX 550, which is bizarre really, considering the specs. Don't make sense. It's rather, you could say it's an AMD driver problem, or the game is just not optimised enough at this time, even though Intel's the main sponsor. But you may find out, being Intel the sponsor, they were supposed to have ARC graphic cards out by now, so it should have favoured their cards probably, but they're not out. So yeah, so it's 720p low. The 1030 is doing the 50s, and the RX 550 is in the 40s. I mean, playable. You can't play at high settings. If you look at the chart of the other CPUs we tested, basically the frame rate is lousy. Even at 1080p low, it's just lousy. Doing the 20s, it's just not playable at the end of the day. I mean, if you're going to play it, you have to play at 720p low presets. We go up to the 1650. Again, we'll do about 5 frames ahead of AMD's RX 6500 XT. Okay, if you look at the 1% low, I mean, it's pretty bad on the 1650. There was quite a bit of a drop. So, yeah, I mean, there's optimisations to come. I have noticed in the past on Total War games, after about a year, I mean, they literally go at a completely different speed. With the optimisations will come in. And if we go up to the RX 6600, regardless of what processor you got, even with the 5600G, there's literally nothing in it. So you're going to have no problem there. We go over to 1080p medium, the 1650 and the 6500 XT, just trading blows with each other, literally identical, except the 1% low again is very poor on the 1650. It does have that bit of a drop. Don't know why. Just doing again, it's probably all down to optimisations at this time. So we go up to high settings. You can see between the 12100 and the 12400. 12400 and 12600K, 5600G. Benchmarks are very, very similar. But the 1650 is having a nasty 1% low still on high settings. Has no problem with the 6500 XT. Yeah, so you go by high and ultra. 1650 with its 1% lows. I'd probably stay clear of that and go medium and probably make the armies larger, because obviously that 1% low could be a pain playing the game, and you don't want that. But the RX 6600 has no problem playing as always. Yeah, so again, the 12100 i3 to the 12600K, there's literally nothing in it between the processors with the RX 6600. Again, it could be a big massive money saver if you just don't buy a 12600K, unless obviously you need it, the multi-cores, for some other reason. Okay, you saw the benchmarking. Fantastic CPU, can't complain. I mean, it's not that far off really, the 12400, 12600. Unless obviously you're doing multi-core testing, where obviously it gets annihilated. But gaming wise, it's a great CPU, really. I mean, as long as you set it up with the right type of GPUs. Now we've gone up to the RX 6600. One's fine. I mean, ideally you're not going to put a 3080 with this. Be a bit underpowered if you did. But yeah, I totally recommend this as a budget CPU. This is fantastic. Yeah, I can't complain at all from Intel. Intel has got it spot on at the end of the day. Price wise, speed wise, core count, perfect. Okay, hope you like the video, and I'll see you in the next one. And don't forget to subscribe. Have fun.